All right, students. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to use the thickness planer. Now we do have two of these in the shop. One is our Powermatic here, the other one is right behind me. It's that green Grigio planer. So these thickness planers are designed to do just like the name sounds. They reduce the thickness of a material. So they will smooth out the surfaces of boards. For example, if I have multiple boards that were glued together, this is going to smooth out our surface if there's some irregularities, or just reduce the thickness, smooth out the top of your board. You guys will all use this with the cutting board project, as well as picture frame, many other projects that you'll do in the shop. It's a very handy tool to have. I'm going to show you kind of some of the key details on how it works and some safety concepts. So first off, I'm going to tell you about the machine. So our Powermatic here, both machines are relatively simple to operate. There is a stop button and a start button right over here. That stop button has to be twisted so it pops out in order to start up the machine. Right over here we have our wheel that raises and lowers the height of this table. And inside the machine we have our cutter head and our roller bars that help feed the project through as it cuts. Now, one key concept you need to know is where to start. So in order to set up the height to correctly send your board through for the first pass, you need to look right down here, and you're going to line this up so it is about 1/8 of an inch, between 1/8 and 1/4, below that bar in the middle to the surface of your wood. So I'm looking at this one, and I'm a little high, so I'm going to come over here and I am going to turn this wheel counterclockwise. I'm going to lower this a little bit until it's just at that right height. So once I have that set up, then I am ready to feed my board through. Now, a couple things you need to know before you do that. First off, the type of wood you run through the planer is important. You don't ever want to run plywood or any kind of man-made wood through the planer. It will damage both your project and potentially the machine. You only want to run solid wood through here. Also, you want to make sure you're running your boards with the grain. You don't want to go across the grain, as you're going to get a lot of tear out on that back edge. So you want to go with the grain of the wood that you're planing. Once I'm ready to run my board through the planer, and I have it all lined up, I would highly recommend putting in some earplugs, as this machine can get a little loud. Then you may push that start button. You're going to set this down on the table, try and keep it as flat as you can, and slowly feed it through. At some point you'll feel it grab on and it'll start to pull itself through. Make sure you don't have your hands and fingers between your board and this table, because it tends to pick it up a little bit and then drop it back down when it catches. So you don't want your fingers to get pinched in there. Sometimes it will kind of get stuck as it's starting to go through. Just give it a little push and it should catch and start feeding its way through. If it gets stuck, then you want to go ahead and shut off the machine. You can lower the table and then pull your piece of wood out and try it again. I'm going to go ahead and start this up and show you what it looks like for this first pass. The machine is running now, keeping it relatively flat. I'm going to start feeding it through. You can hear it making that cut. I'm going to walk around to the other side, pull my piece out, bring it back. Notice how this edge is already pretty smooth. However, we still have some height differences between this and this, right? So I'm going to send it through again, but I need to raise the table 1 full revolution clockwise. So right over here, I'm going to twist this wheel 1 revolution clockwise, and that's going to raise up the table about 1/16 of an inch. Now I'm going to send this through for the second time. Now, once I have this side looking pretty good, I'm going to flip this over, raise my wheel up, 1 full revolution again. Again, that gives me about 1/16 of an inch of difference with each pass. And then I'm just going to keep going until both sides are nice and smooth and flat. It's a relatively simple machine to use once you've got those basic principles down. Make sure you don't ever stick your hands and fingers inside of the machine. That's a recipe for disaster. Now let me talk about some more of these safety concepts that will help prepare you for the test, and then you'll be ready to take it and start using that machine after your hands-on trial. Okay, so first off, just like any machine in the shop, make sure you have the permission of the instructor before you use it. Once you have completed the safety test and the hands-on trial, then you will have the permission to use this machine. Make sure you're wearing eye and ear protection when using this planer. You should know where the controls are and how it operates before you use it. Don't come in and push random things if you don't know exactly what they do. That goes with any machine in the shop. It's always good advice. Always set the height of the table first before you turn on the machine. So all your adjustments at the start should be done with it off. And once it is running, you don't want to look inside because there's going to be wood chips that might be shooting out. Always set the planer to the smallest cut that will do the job. That's why we try and keep it to just one revolution between each pass, which is about 1/16 of an inch. Or you can do a half a turn and just shave off a 32nd if you only need a little bit taken off. Your wood must be in good condition and free of defects like knots, splits, or checks before you run it through the machine. You also want it to be free of nails and other hardware. So if there's any type of metal hardware in your wood, make sure you remove that before running it through the planer, as that will damage the machine and break the blades. You also don't want to run wood through the planer that has any kind of finish on it. So if it has a finish like a paint or a stain, then don't run it through the planer because that will gum up the blades as well. Make sure your material is long enough to go through the planer safely. The two roller bars in here are 12 inches apart. So if you run a board through there that is shorter than 12 inches long, then there's always a chance it's going to get stuck between those roller bars, and it'll just sit there kind of chipping away at it, bouncing around, and it's going to ruin your project and potentially damage the planer as well. Also, make sure your material is at least a ½ inch thick before running it through the planer. The flat or smooth board face should be placed face down on the table. So whichever side of your board is flatter and smoother to start with, put that face down. Make sure the dust collector is always on when using the planer. These produce a lot of dust. Make sure you keep your fingers out of that area between the board and the table. They can get pinched. Never look into the planer while it's operating. Make sure you have learned how to operate this correctly and safely before using it. And the last thing is keeping in mind that this planer takes almost a full 30 seconds to completely shut down and come to a stop. So make sure you stay with that machine until the blade has come to a complete stop. We don't want some unsuspecting student to walk up thinking it's completely off and reach in and have something bad happen. So always stay with your machines until the blades are completely stopped spinning. That about wraps it up for the planer safety test. You are now free to go take that quiz. If you get 100%, you'll be ready to move on to the hands-on trial and then start using this machine on all your projects.